Ah, so that's what our project is. A wall mount TV we're going to install. And I'm going to install that up on this wall somewhere. And it's in a small bedroom. Here's the bed over here, so it's going to have to go up in there. But before I get all gung-ho on all that, I've got to make myself a material list because I don't want to just get in there and plug that in. You'll see. There's the plug and the cable outlet for the TV. Now I could just go ahead and bolt it up there and have the wires stick down and hang down and plug it into there, no problem. But I don't like to do things like that. I want all of this stuff to not show. I don't want the wires coming down, so that's why I've got to make a material list, because I'm going to take that plug right there and I've got to take that out of the wall and I've got to fish a wire up, and I'm going to cut in another box up here behind the TV location. You see, I'm going to fish a wire down to this plug outlet down here. I'll probably end up leaving the plug and not just put a blank plate there like a junction box, but I'll probably leave the plug in case they end up having a dresser underneath the TV, which they probably will. Maybe this dresser or a little bit lower dresser, I suppose. And then I won't see the TV plug hanging down the wall. I'll do the same thing for the cable. The cable, I'll fish another cable up through the wall back behind the TV and fish that down the wall too. Do you see what I mean? I'll bet you another one of your questions is, hey, what about if I want a DVD player hooked up to this TV? What about that, Joe? What are you going to do with those wires? You know, I've seen some people, they install the TV up here, they fish the wires down the wall like I'm going to show you, and then they've got the DVD wires hanging out below that, coming down to a countertop, a desk, a dresser, and then you see those wires. Well, I'm going to try to figure out what to do with that too. I'm going to get some longer DVD cord ends. I'm going to fish those down the wall too, and I'm probably going to have them come out of a box down low, maybe this same box here or something, and then I'll have to have long ones so that then I can take those wires and sneak them back up behind a dresser and then poke them into a DVD player. So when I make my material list, I'm going to have to go to the store and get some wire and some other stuff like that. Well, I need to check out this plug because I want to make sure I know what size wire it is. It could be 14-2 with ground, it could be 12-2 with ground. 12-2 with ground is for to be used on a 20 amp circuit. 14-2 with ground is a Romex cable with a black, white wire, a black wire, and a bare copper wire in it. That 14-2 with ground, that's what it's called. It's a Romex cable, and there's a sheathing around it. You got those 3 wires in there. So when you hear 14-2 with ground, you know what I'm talking about. 12-2 with ground is the same thing, except the size wire is a little bit bigger. So 14-2 with ground is for a 15 amp circuit. Now, how are we going to figure out what type of circuit we got? Well, go to your sub panel and look around and see what you got in there, and that's going to tell us a big story. So I think we need to do that next. Well, here's the sub panel. I located that, and if you have a hard time finding it, usually it's behind a closet door, a bedroom door, a storage room door, something like that. Now sometimes you might not have a sub panel in your house at all. It might be your actual electrical panel, main panel outside. You may have to walk outside and find it, but you know, sometimes they're inside too. So, and then you might have the main service outside, and then it comes into a sub panel such as this. Okay, well, we open up this up, and this is going to tell me a lot about the project right here. Now, I'm looking on here. See all those numbers there? This number here, and down here, up here. I'm looking at that, and that says 20 on there. So that tells me this is a 20 amp breaker. And I look up here further, and they look like they're all 20s. See up here? All these are 20s. Along here on this side over here too, those are 20s. I got some double ones here too. And you look on a little tag, and usually there's something inside your sub panel, like something like this up here. And this will tell you what the associated numbers are. So you look up here, like say that one there. See, that says 6. I don't know if you could see that. Then you look down over here to the corresponding number. And here's 6 here. You look over here, it's a single 20 amp breaker. Number 6 said bedroom receptacles, second floor. So I know that's probably the circuit. Now I can check some other ones and stuff like that, but the main thing I'm checking now is to see this. And the funny thing, I don't see any that say 15 amps. So that tells me, what does that tell me? Right, it should be 12-2 with ground in the wall, but I'm still going to pull out the wire. I'm still going to pull the plug out. That's my next step. I'm going to check that just to make sure, because I don't want to start putting in the wrong size wires, and they should have this hooked up properly. It should be 12-2 with ground inside the wall. But see, if it was let's say on a 15 amp breaker, then I would need 14-2 wire. Now I could go with 12-2 with ground on a 15 amp circuit if it's 14-2 with ground, because nothing is ever going to happen, because the circuit's going to trip after it achieves so much power anyways. But I'm probably confusing you now, but you know, if you have a 20 amp breaker and you've got 12-2 with ground wire, 12 gauge wire, the last thing you want to do is install 14 gauge wire on a 20 amp circuit, because then you might have a problem on your hands, because more power is going to come in there, and your wires could burn up. You could cause a fire. It could start shorting out the breakers, and you could have a fire in here after a while. Your breaker might keep tripping, stuff like that. So those are the types of things you need to check. That's why we're checking that right now. Now I'm going to check this plug. This is the plug and the cable for the TV, and here I've got a little drop light here, and I've got that plugged into there. Now I found the associated breaker. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna turn it off and see if this goes off, because I never want you to ever work on a hot plug, because I'm gonna pull that plug out of the wall. Okay, I guess that was the right circuit. See, I only had to check one because I knew I had a pretty good idea that the one I was turning was this one. So if you read the panel like I was showing you, it might take you 2 or 3 turns on different breakers, but you should get it pretty easily. That way you don't have to turn on and off all 20 of your breakers or however many you got. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and pull that plug out. I'm just going to double check it to make sure I get the right size wire. Now here's a mistake that some people do. Here's that same plug here. Before I pull it out, you know, some people will look at this and say, oh, I know what circuit that's on. That's on a 15 amp breaker. Because nobody would ever install a 15 amp plug on a 20 amp circuit. And that's what's happened here. And lots of electricians do this. Lots of inspectors let that go. And I'm not quite sure why. But this is a 15 amp breaker receptacle. And the reason why I know that, the 20 amp receptacles usually have a little line coming across this way, and it's a little notch that comes across here and one there. When you see a plug like that, you know that is definitely on a 20 amp circuit. Now see, this one doesn't have that, does it? There's no notch right here. It'd be a light little notch coming across, just like that, coming out there and one there. But so if you ever see a plug like this, don't make the assumption that it's 14 gauge wire. running to that on a 15 amp circuit, because sadly that might not be the case. Alright, so I know that I'm going to need 12 gauge wire for my job, because I'm going to have to take a wire. Ultimately I'm going to have a wire from there, and I'm going to go up behind where I'm going to put the TV and put a cut-in box in there. So I need a cut-in box there, I need some wire, I need some wire nuts, I need more than likely I'm gonna take this plug and outlet box out of the wall and put a cut-in box there too, because it might be kind of hard to fish a wire from this box straight up without taking this box out. And you know what, I might even try to do it, but it's kind of tricky to do that. But I always like to be prepared, so I'll get an extra cut-in box for that. And this box here I'll probably be able to save. I don't know if I have to pull that out of the wall or not. In fact, I'll probably unscrew that too. I know I'm going to need a cut-in box for that up high too, and I may need another one down here. So you know what, I think I better just take this apart just to see what kind of box it is. Here's something else I decided too. Lots of times when you raise this plug, you could take this plug out and raise it up, put a blank plate here, and use this as a junction box. Just tie your new wires into there, and then you don't have a plug here. But I don't want to do that, because they're going to have a dresser, a set of drawers right here below the TV. So I want to keep this plug down here too. That way, in case they want to plug, you know, first off, your DVD player, you want to plug that in there. And if you have a lamp on top of your dresser, you want something there too. So I know I'm going to have to get another one of these plugs, just like this one, for up high, where behind the TV. So this one is rectangular. You got to look at that, because what I like to do is match everything existing conditions. I don't want to get a cheap old plug that's got the two duplex plugs individual. You know what I mean? It looks a little bit different than this. So I'm liking that. And this cover is a vinyl cover. It's not an ivory plastic cover, it's a vinyl one, and it pushes in kind of. I can tell the difference, so I'm going to get one of those too. And this is white. It's not an off-white. Sometimes they have off-white plugs. So that's all that kind of stuff that you kind of need to keep in mind, so when you get done, it doesn't even look like you're there. Just so you know, I mean, each TV bracket assembly is different. You've got to get the bracket assembly directions out. This one had 2 different bracket assemblies to put back here, because it's modified to accept pretty much any TV. The whole pattern may not be the same for your TV, so you may not need this bracket, you may have a different bracket, but they're pretty much universal. Okay, so I don't want you to think this was just something I kind of threw together, because I did a little bit of planning on this and I kind of pulled out everything, and I have not installed this type of bracket assembly before. That's why I'm going and reading the directions like I should. Don't think you can figure it out without going through the directions, okay? And that way I can see where everything's at and all that, okay? You can do it. So like I say, spend some time on this, read your directions, make sure your bracket assembly is going up right, and that you understand everything, how it works, before figuring out what to do next. Because see, once this bracket is on here, I get it hooked on, and I figured out which way it goes, and lift it up and all that, and I know that's right, and that's the bottom. Remember, I wanted 5 feet 2 inches to the bottom edge of the TV. So I know this is the bottom, I know this is up tight, so I've got to measure 5 feet 2 inches from this edge. Then I have to measure up to the bottom of this bracket that's going to be bolted to the wall. So the easiest way to do it is just hold your tape out. I got 5 feet 2 inches right to this edge where the bottom edge is, and then I can look up here to the edge of the bottom of this bracket assembly. Okay, I got 69 and 3/8. So I know this is where the bottom of the bracket has to be bolted up to the wall, right? Then that will allow this room here. I couldn't just bolt that at 5'2" and say, okay, that's fine. Put the TV up there. Uh-oh, you forgot about that. Uh-oh, you measured from the top down, and you thought that was the bottom of the TV, so you measured 5'2" from here to there, and now you're wrong. So see, that's why you just spend a little bit of time, get your bearings, understand your project before you start bolting anything up to the wall and making holes, because you want to do this right the first time.